Welcome to the Butterfly Effect, brought to you by Moss Adams. I'm Chris Horner. This is stage 8 of the Tour de France 2021. 150 kilometers, about 95 miles in length, and it's going to be a legendary stage because we are in the mountains. 5 categorized climbs, but the last 3 are Cat 1, and they're going to blow this field apart. Racing starts from kilometer 0, and there's a 5-kilometer climb right away out of the blocks that will just blow the race up. Half the field, I'm here to tell you, won't even know what happened in today's race, and they're going to have to talk to their teammates at dinner tonight or have their family members call them when they're at the hotel and explain what happened, because those guys are getting dropped right away from the start. Chris Froome would be swinging 2 kilometers into the stage while delivering most of the big attacks on the first climb, leaving the blocks, and everybody behind is just trying to survive. Over the top of the first climb, only 5K into it, it's raining, pouring, the descents are treacherous. Now, right away, the biggest thing for you to notice if you're watching this stage, UAE Team Emirates have 0 control over the field. This is blowing my mind apart. They have a team that could definitely control this field for a certain length of time. They have 4 guys dropped, 3 guys with Tadej Pogačar, and they're still sending Rui Costa, Davide Formulo, and Brandon McNulty in attacks all the time going up the road. This is just not acceptable. It's amateur tactics. What if, let's just say for the sake, because we're on the butterfly effect, what if Tadej Pogačar, who's on spectacular form, we already know, and this is the first day in the mountains, what if when Rui Costa's up the road, he flats, slides off the road, a rider in front of him crashes, and he goes over the bars? He has 1-2 teammates with him, because at times they're sending multiple guys following attacks, and Tadej Pogačar is left to defend himself. This is unacceptable in my mind and just absolutely amateur tactics. Now, I talked about yesterday on the butterfly effect, if UAE Team Emirates has a rider in the break, it means nothing. They're trying to win the Tour de France with Tadej Pogačar, and now on today's stage, I'll get to point that out. Just before the break finally gets away, we're talking 70, 75 kilometers into the stage, a group of 16 riders finally escape, and the group behind sit up. You see Tadej Pogačar with his UAE Team Emirates, Formulo there, and they finally calm the group down. Everybody's tired and fatigued because it's been full gas. Brandon McNulty, who was going across to the break, now what do? They call him back. So all those times of trying to follow attacks on today's stage, that's just tiring your legs out and making you more fatigued for no reason. No matter what break goes up the road, it doesn't matter unless it's Tadej Pogačar in that move. It makes no difference if Formulo's there, if Rui Costa there, or Brandon McNulty, because all those guys are 30 minutes down on general classification. So there's no real advantage to UAE Team Emirates having someone there. But the disadvantage, if something was to happen back there to Tadej Pogačar, anything, flats, crashes, and the fact that Tadej Pogačar now has to cover attacks himself every time he has a teammate that's up the road, because this stage was chaos for 75 kilometers. So every time on camera, when we're watching the front break of 10, 5, 7, 15, 20, whatever it happens to be, and you see a UAE Team Emirates rider up there, that means that there's one less or nobody else with Tadej Pogačar. So crazy tactics in my book. Once they finally wise up, they pull Brandon McNulty from chasing the front group of 16. They pull him back, and now they have 3 with Tadej Pogačar, 4 total. The other 4 UAE Team Emirates we never saw throughout today's stage. Rui Costa will get on the front and start setting some tempo. Now, the one upside, the group of 16, only Søren Kragh Andersen is any threat on GC, and he's 6.5 minutes back. So Rui Costa can ride quite easy, at least for a little bit. Second to last climb, the Col de Romme, is when the action starts happening for the break and for the GC favorites. DSM riders with Søren Kragh Andersen had tried to slip away, But Michael Woods flies across and passes those guys on the Col de Romme and now is set off 35 kilometers from the finish to try to solo and win today's stage. Behind the GC favorites, Brandon McNulty set some tempo up the Col de Romme until Davide Formulo jumps on the front and really blows the group up down to the elite riders. Matthew van der Poel sent out the back. Wout van Aert is sent out the back and struggling. He's still trying to finish as close as he can to Tadej Pogačar because he's got a 3-minute gap at least to Tadej Pogačar. So if he can keep the favorites close, he can wear yellow at the end of the stage. But let me point out, Wout van Aert is isolated and all alone. There are no Jumbo-Visma teammates with him. They have blown up and been scattered throughout the stage. Primoz Roglic got dropped early. Mike Teunissen got dropped early. Sepp Kuss had followed attack after attack and now has been dropped. Wout van Aert's getting dropped from the favorites. Jonas Vingegaard is in with the favorites, but he's riding on GC, so Wout is all on his own to try to salvage today's stage and win the yellow. It won't be good enough for Wout. Up front, Michael Woods is on a mission, but there's cameras spread out all over the race. So the group of 16 have blown up on the penultimate climb, trying to chase down Michael Woods' groups all over. The GC favorites, after Davide Formulo finishes his work, Tadej Pogačar lights everybody up with 2 kilometers to go. Carapaz from Ineos try to follow him, but it only can stay on the wheel for 200 to 400 meters before Carapaz pops and now is doing damage control over the penultimate climb. Tadej Pogačar, who when he started his attack was about 4 minutes behind Michael Woods, is making up time left and right. He'll go over the penultimate climb, drive down the descent, take maximum risk. Carapaz, even with the help of Jonathan Castroviejo, who was in the group of 16, dropped off and is now working with Carapaz, cannot put any time into Tadej Pogačar because he's flying. When they start the last climb, the Colombière, Tadej Pogačar is gaining time on Michael Woods, and it looks like he's got a legitimate chance of winning today's stage, taking the jersey, and dominating this year's Tour de France. Carapaz is losing time by buckets up there to Tadej Pogačar as Tadej Pogačar is picking off riders left and right like they're standing still. Somewhere out of the blue, Dylan Teuns comes flying up to Michael Woods and drops him with 1 kilometer to go over the last climb, Col de Colombière, and is trying to solo it, but behind Tadej Pogačar catches Michael Woods, flies by him, and crests the summit only 10-15 seconds behind Dylan Teuns. Dylan Teuns now is throwing everything he's got into the stage because he knows this is going to be one for the books and will always remember this stage 8 of the Tour de France. He's taken every risk down the descent. Tadej Pogačar is flying through the corners when finally, certainly somebody, himself or the director, said, "Hey, you have this Tour de France yellow jersey at the end of the stage. Do not crash." He backs off. Ion Izagirre, along with Michael Woods, attach on with Tadej Pogačar, and the gap explodes to Dylan Teuns as he rides solo into the win for Stage 8. Spectacular style, a mammoth stage, one for the books. It was absolutely legendary. If there's any stage, this one is worth watching from kilometer 0 all the way to the finish. Dylan Teuns, incredibly emotional and just absolutely lit up our hearts. Spectacular win for him. Bahrain victorious, absolutely unbelievable. Wout Poels, who was spectacular all day long, will get the KOM jersey. Tadej Pogačar will finish 4th on the stage, take yellow and best young jersey, of course, which he already had. Behind the other group of GC favorites, Richard Carapaz got caught by all of the favorites. They'll finish more than 3 minutes behind Tadej Pogačar. Now, this race was absolutely magical. and guys were spread out all over the place. I did not like the tactics of UAE Team Emirates, but Tadej Pogačar made up with it with just pure power and phenomenal form. He just blew everyone off the wheel. It was a spectacular day of racing. The Gruppetto group finished 35 minutes back. Those guys have no idea what happened on today's stage. Us fans watching from the couches will have to call each one of those guys to let them know how exciting of a stage it was that they missed at the Tour de France because they were taking part in it instead of watching it from the couch like us. I hope you guys enjoyed my take on the butterfly effect. Tomorrow's stage 2 in the mountains for us, stage 9 of the Tour de France, will be exciting. There are no strong teams at this year's Tour de France. Jumbo-Visma aren't strong. UAE Team Emirates are definitely not strong. Ineos have blown up and they're spread all over the map. So what we're used to watching in the Tour de France does not carry over to tomorrow's stage. Anything can happen. Could be an incredibly exciting stage. Expect massive attacks again. As everybody knows, there's a chance to win a Tour de France stage on any medium and big mountain stage. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys real soon.